Howdy, howdy. We are live on another Friday night. We are about to do a live Tex-Trek podcast to discuss the latest episode of Star Trek Picard. Sorry if there was some miscommunication on our start of our live stream. We were intending to kick things off right now at 7 p.m. Central. I think it was accidentally scheduled for 7:30, so I'm sorry about that. I'll take the blame for that one. But yeah, we're maintaining our traditional, regularly scheduled programming of 7 p.m. Central.
Listen, there's time travel stuff at work right now.
Exactly.
Who knows when anything happens?
Yeah, it's all
Thanks a lot, Borg Queen, who possessed Fathery's body and made him wear a sexy red dress.
And I was doing like musical numbers and all kinds
Dave,
of
you
stuff.
don't know the half of it. And
Fathery, if you came down down those stairs with a spotlight on you, like this hardcore metal would start playing, like. Yeah, man, you'd rock that fucking party.
Father, your birthday was pretty metal.
Yeah,
as I recall.
You will remember more of it than me, so I'll,
Yes,
I'll have to take your word for it. But no, we're talking about the latest episode of Picard. We're going to do a deep dive breakdown of it, and then later on tonight there will be some late night fun over on the Starfleet Boy After Dark channel. So we should just go ahead and get the show started. I'll handle the backstage stuff for our intro
right.
and outro. We have our engineer has taken the turbo lift up to the bridge and presented his dying nephew, and will be joining us tonight.
I always like when Scotty gets an episode. It's cool.
It's true. He stayed at his post when the trainees ran. When the other trainees ran, he stayed at his post.
I will give the Uhura reaction.
My God.
Let's go ahead and engage. I'm Fathery.
This is Starfleet Boy.
This is Dave.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Is Jill 47 giving us the pirate's mark? Is that what
Oh, it's the black
she
spot,
is.
yeah.
the black spot is?
Oh dear.
Man.
You've angered her. Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 186th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek old and new, and proud members of the Treksphere Network. Tonight, we are talking about Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 7, Monsters, written by Jane Maggs and directed by Joe Menendez. So Maggs and Menendez writing Monsters. It's kind of a lot of M's. Yeah, M. But before we get too into the weeds with that, or with a Muppet musical segment we might sporadically just bust into, but I just want to mention that we are day of recording 3 weeks away from covering not just the finale of Star Trek Picard, but also the series premiere of Strange New Worlds. So that's
From
only
the ashes of
3 weeks
Picard will emerge strange new worlds.
the phoenix that is Pike, with his magnificent hair flowing.
Yes, silver locks.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be kind of a big show covering a premiere and a finale at the same time, but I'm really looking forward to it. And that's going to be fun, like Cinco de Mayo, because the episodes actually come out on May 5th. So we're going to grill up some fajitas down at Casa de Fathery and have some Dos Equis and watch some Star Trek. So that's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to watching and then discussing these episodes. And I just want to remind everyone we are trying to increase the number of YouTube subscribers we have. Even if you listen to the podcast through some audio method, it would still mean a lot to us if you could go ahead and log into YouTube and hit that subscribe button. We've actually grown 70% just this year, just covering Picard in the last couple of months. So
For which, many thanks.
Yes, so thank you everyone, and we've gone from 700 to 770. I think we're at 73 now, 773 or 4. So if we could just get that to 800 before Strange New Worlds premieres, I think that'd be pretty manageable, and we'd really appreciate that. And if you do listen to the podcast or you use Apple Podcast or anything like that, if you want to show us some appreciation over there, by all means, please consider taking the time to leave us a 5-star review. That'll help more people discover us and kind of help us grow our listener base on that side of things. So, we appreciate the people that keep coming back week to week and are, helping us out with the subscriptions or the 5-star reviews. And, thank you so much for doing that. It really means a lot to all of us when we see that interaction. When we're getting thanked for all the effort we're putting into this, it's a really great feeling. So thank you for being able to help us out like that. And also on the YouTube side of things, there were some streams going on from the weekend from Star Trek Mission Chicago. Did a couple of live streams, showed people an inside look of the show floor. We did a recap talking about all the panels we attended, where there wasn't just Strange New World stuff, with a clip from the show, but also a clip from Lower Decks. We got to see a panel with a lot of the Discovery actors. We got to see a panel with some of the Prodigy creatives and with Admiral Janeway herself, Kate Mulgrew, and got to see a clip from upcoming Prodigy episodes. So we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Go check out that content on YouTube.
Father, I also saw a pic. You saw Goth Janeway there among the cosplayers.
Yeah, there were some great cosplays, including Goth. I predicted that would be that'd be one we would start seeing a lot of. And
she was rad. She had light up.
Yeah, her uniform actually lit up. It was illuminated.
Yeah,
and just in case that reference is lost on anybody, that is to say, the recoded Janeway from Prodigy,
the evil Janeway, who was fake evil Janeway because they never actually lost control.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a hat on a hat on a hat type of thing. But enough about all of that stuff. We have a new episode of Picard to discuss. I'm going to quickly recap it by reading the official synopsis, and then I'll kind of expand on that with spoilers. Then I'm going to ask y'all what y'all's thoughts on this episode are. But the official synopsis reads, Tallinn ventures inside Picard's subconscious mind to help wake him from a coma and face both his darkest secrets and deepest fears. Seven and Raffi go in search of Jurati, whom they fear has succumbed to the monster inside. Rios struggles to hide the truth of who he really is from Teresa. That last sentence is actually a lie. He doesn't really struggle. He kind of gives in pretty quickly and tells her the truth that he's a time traveler. Shows off the La Sirena. Tallinn, finds out kind of some of the stuff going on with Picard's mom. We don't know everything, but we find out, she had some mental illness issues, and that's kind of why Picard had this tension with his dad. And he wakes up to go meet Guinan to try to summon Q to find out what Q's motivations are. Instead, they get arrested by the FBI. And Seven and Raffi are, I guess, trying to track down Jurati, and they figure out that part of the Borg Queen's master plan was to smash glass to release endorphins, because that makes her Borgify faster. Glass. Yeah, so
have you ever smashed some glass? It feels really good. Father, two quick comments. One, I think Rios has time travel bends, the time bends or temporal bends, if you will, and that's why he's such a Looney Tune this season. And
you don't think it's just slightly scattered writing?
Maybe that too. Temporal bends can happen to writers too. And the other thing was just about Jean-Luc. Well, I'll wait for that for when we talk about him and his father. Never mind. I don't.
Well, Starfleet Boy, if you have stuff on your mind, why don't you just go ahead and give us your broad impression on this episode, and go ahead and give the first of our 3 opening statements.
This is the first episode I'm still thinking about. I only had a chance to watch it twice. I admit that, like, the first time I watched it, I was on my way to. I was like 3 in the morning, so I hadn't even, I was kind of still spacey myself. And then the second time I watched it was yesterday when I got home in the evening. And so I'm still thinking about it because there are some things that I'm not quite sure about how I feel, mainly centered around Jean-Luc's reveal of what might actually be going on in his past. And then overall, I just think like I'm kind of waiting for the action to get started, which I imagine will happen next week. And the last 3 episodes will kind of give us a good sort of journey home.
Cool. Well, for me, last week's episode was a rocky one, 2 of 1. So this was much better. This was more to my liking. Seeing James Callis was a real treat. It's been about a decade since my last BSG rewatch, and I'd forgotten how strong of a presence this actor has. But while his scenes with Patrick Stewart were fun and well acted and very watchable, they didn't have much weight. Like I think they were kind of intended to have much like emotional impact. I don't have too strong of feelings about the subconscious Picard stuff. Probably because we had kind of figured that out last week. I think Aaron even pointed out on the show last week that, oh yeah, what if, the big secret is just like Picard's mom had like these mental health issues and the dad was trying to, restrain her for her own good. And that's why Picard imagined the dad as a monster and stuff. So we kind of already saw some of that stuff coming, but they're clearly holding back on some of that stuff with her. What happens next? What does little Picard do with the key and all of that? So I'm kind of just going to have to enjoy the ride and write it out and see where they're going with that before I have a stronger opinion on that aspect of the season. I do, however, really appreciate that we are getting some Laris, even though she's Tallinn. I think she's actually going to end up becoming Laris or something. But just assuming that this Tallinn character somehow is Laris in the long run, we're getting some Laris and Picard stuff. I'm a kind of a fan of that possible romance. I know y'all disagree with me, but I'd rather see Picard end up with her than with Beverly or Vash or any of the past love interests.
But it's all good.
I think putting her inside of his mind and actually, allowing her to see his inner secrets up close and see him as like the scared little child that she has to be supportive of and protect, that actually gives some substance to that kind of base attraction that they've had.
It's like fast tracking. It's like fast tracking a relationship depth. In a way.
Yeah, it's adding some depth to what previously has kind of just been kind of a surface level attraction. We didn't really know why they would have any kind of like bond or romance. So this is kind of fleshing that possibility out. So I really like that. And speaking of relationship stuff, Seven and Raffi are briefly shown having their great chemistry in this show. I liked seeing the two of them, get along a little bit here. That's a lot of fun, and I'm continued to be, impressed and delighted with that relationship. And on the same note, I guess also Rios and Teresa. Well, I guess Rios is moving perhaps too far, too fast with some things. We can talk about that more later, but I do kind of like the scenes of like him being cutesy with her and the stuff with the little kid Ricardo, and we'll just talk about that later on, I suppose.
You can't take a girl to your starship on her first date. That's a little fast.
It's like their third date.
I mean, that's actually true.
Yeah.
He's only moving at like warp 3.8.
He has the Kirk precedent, Star Trek 4. But we end the episode with Guinan, with more Guinan, and I'm continuing to like this new interpretation of Guinan, and just we get an additional character at the end with the FBI agent. So last week, I think I said that the scope of Picard Season 2 was starting to narrow. This episode seems to kind of expand it back out to where now it does seem like there are an awful lot of plates spinning. We still have all the stuff that wasn't shown in this episode, like Q being sick and desperate for something to happen, and the Soong and Corey stuff, and whatever Renee Picard does out on her space mission, and Jurati and the Queen running around, and all the things that our regulars were doing in this episode. So overall, I think that's a lot of stuff to wrap up in these last 3 episodes of the season. But I'm eager to see what they do next because I don't really see anything obvious. And that's kind of a scary place to be, but also kind of an exciting place to be with a show like this. And given how much I've enjoyed the structure of the show and just the writing in the show overall this year, I'm more excited than scared. But I'm definitely eager about these 3 remaining episodes, and am really like desperate to see what happens next. Dave, what about you?
Where's Picard's brother?
Robert? He's like off at school or something.
Yeah, I've seen people mention that, and like it is kind of a weird omission, but it's not particularly. I'm sort of neither here nor there on it. If he doesn't play a particular relevance, I think, in Picard's relationship with his mom and dad at this point. So
I have a thought on that, but I'll save it till we're talking about that. But yeah, I was wondering that myself.
Actually, I want a quick, as if Brian couldn't join us tonight, but I wish that in a way he had, because I know that Brian likes those episodes that dive into where you get in someone's headspace and you often represent things symbolically within a sort of mindscape. I'm sort of lukewarm to negative on the basic concept, but I've seen it done well. What's the Deep Space Nine one with Bashir? Is it Distant Voices or something?
No. I can't think of the name of it, but
whatever that one was, the one where Bashir had turned 30 and was like angsting over that, and he was in this mysterious creepy version of the station with other people, and I thought that was a pretty cool one, but. This did offer up some twists and turns, just as that episode did. It did throw a few surprises our way, even if we were starting to guess at some of them. I'm
sorry, Dave. You were right. It is Distant Voices.
Oh, okay. Cool. But I sort of was. I guess I was mildly dissatisfied with this episode because it felt a little fillery to me. Like they advanced all the little plot threads a little bit, but I sort of felt like we've gotten away from the pressing nature of it. One of the things I like about like TOS episodes is that they'd sometimes have there was essentially always an actiony A plot, and the B plot was like Spock trying to reconcile with his dad or something like that. But they'd be trying to do that, and then suddenly the ship is under an attack from like an Orion raider. And we're now removed enough in episodes from like fascist future to I'm like, right, they're trying to figure out they're trying to get Renee on the spaceship, but they also need to figure out what Q's plan is. No one's in immediate physical danger, or I mean, I guess Picard is, but that one doesn't feel too immediate. Everything feels a little distant right now, and so I'm not finding it that sort of compelling thing. Like, I almost needed some sort of more immediate moment of maybe, if not physical threat, then something that was a little bit more dire, like like an engagement with Q right in person. That said, the stuff I liked in the episode were it was like sort of scattered things. I really liked Rios revealing that he sees Picard as a father figure. That was kind of a follow-up to some stuff from season 1. I mostly was digging the addition to the how do you say it, El-Aurian?
El-Aurian lore, yeah.
Yeah, the lore for Guinan's people. I loved the claw hands return. That was really good.
That was the actor's choice, by the way. They said in the ready room that was her idea to do that there.
Good call. I've liked almost everything she's done. I think she's a strong addition to the cast this season. So, more good from her. And I'm liking when Picard can kind of do a little bit of take chargedness. And so him trying to puzzle out Q's motivations, which seems like he's trying to tie in, why has he been obsessed with me all this time? What's the bigger picture here? I'll be curious that is actually the thing that most interests me at the moment, is that resolving that mystery. It seems like they have an idea. I hope it can be satisfying, because I'm feeling a little bit of the stretchedness of the format.
It's almost turning into Discovery season 4. If as far as like stretching the story out too long, I think if we don't get like a little bit more satisfaction with the next episode.
Right, and that puts all this weight on whether the reveals are exciting reveals or not, or emotionally satisfying. So, and you're right though, we kind of have to wait a little bit on that, so I can't fully judge it. But anyway, mixed reaction overall for me. So why don't we dive in on some specifics?
Okay, well, let's start with the Picard subconscious dream world, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, basically where he's hanging out with Gaius Baltar from Battlestar Galactica.
It's the and the upside down Narnia. I want to call the other part of it, but anyways,
there's like that weird sun thing glowing. It has kind of like an artsy opening where you see like that sun burning red hot, and then you hear that wonderful James Callis voice saying, the sovereign nature of life is giving life, or whatever he's talking about.
It's like self-consciously slightly artsy thing. You're like, oh, I bet that sun is symbolic, but I'm just gonna. I think I've heard this mentioned elsewhere. I haven't really read a lot of fan reactions and stuff, but so stupid me who hasn't seen as much Trek as other people have. I was one of those people that I was like, is that Bashir? I was just staring at him like for most of the show. Like I'm like, I don't quite get why Bashir has and he looks a little younger than I thought he was, but whatever. There's makeup and CG. I don't know what they're doing.
They made a meme about this, by the way.
Did they?
City. Yeah, it's really hilarious.
They made a meme about this before the episode even came out. They were predicting like people are going to get James Callis and Alexander Siddig confused.
Yeah.
Guilty. Yeah, that was me. That's
funny.
Anyway, and I only had a chance to watch this episode once, so I am the least informed of y'all. I didn't watch it, I did find those scenes somewhat confusing because my mind was working on a second level, trying to figure out how on earth are they going to tie him in. Being slightly annoyed, I'm like, man, they tried to squeeze another old school actor in here, sort of awkwardly. We already have Guinan and Q and Laris got shoehorned in, and I'm like, and now Bashir.
Dave, could you have believed it if he was like an EMH type of thing, like an emergency?
I mean, that's what I was thinking it was going to be, some kind of, because I actually don't know quite his final fate in DS9. So yeah, if they had said, honestly, whatever it was, that there was some sort of recording of him, that he had ended up drifting into psychology or psychiatry, how his discipline was mentioned, I would have been like, okay, it's a little weird. I don't know why, maybe it's some mental implant that all Federation officers have when they fall on dark times, when they're comatose.
When did you learn that it wasn't Bashir, that this was Baltar from Galactica? Or was it just now when I said that?
I think it was it was not until the episode was over, now that I think about it. I was watching the credits. I didn't see it mentioned in that because I guess I didn't see the full credits at the end. And so I think I just looked at the credits online, and I was like, son of a bitch. That's Baltar.
Now both Baltars have been in Star Trek because John Calicos was Core also on Deep Space Nine.
Oh, that's rad! I didn't even. I realized it, but I didn't even think of it that way.
So
cool.
I now demand, if they reboot Battlestar Galactica, to have like a third Baltar. It either has to be someone who has been on Star Trek, or that person has to be cast on Star Trek some point after they're doing BSG.
You know what else?
All Baltars belong to us.
This furthers the we'd been talking about the Jurati 6 connection, the red dress like 6 from Galactica had, inhabiting a mind and all that, like the Borg Queen is doing. It almost can't help but start to feel like intentional at this point. It still may not be, but it kind of feels that way.
Well, Terry Metalis said on Twitter that he's a huge, basically admitted he's a huge Battlestar Galactica fan, because when asked what show that's canceled or ended would you love to have written for, and he said BSG. So I feel like he spent a lot of time in his head in the BSG world. So
it's interesting. I mean, I guess if it's if it essentially just amounts to like nods or using a favorite actor from that show and something like that, that's cool. I wouldn't really want Trek to be like, look, we spent a whole season homaging the red dress from Battlestar Galactica for no discernible reason. But like within the story, it makes sense. Jurati's journey is her own, so.
Yeah, I don't think Battlestar Galactica has ownership over the blonde woman in a red dress, but
I think they do.
The Matrix did it first. Yeah, that's really that's not even in the show that much. That was just like on like the promotional artwork. There would be
Yeah,
like
but
an
it-
ad on your
Monroe
website.
It did factor in kind of heavily in it early, in the opening, I guess, miniseries.
If you're watching BSG now for the first time, if you just like catch it streaming on Hulu or whatever, like you probably wouldn't even think that was like that notable of a thing.
Yeah, it's not if you binge it now. But yeah, like all the promotional materials showed the red dress, and it's not just the blonde with the red dress; it's blonde with the red dress and like mental inhabitation kind of thing. Anyway, I still think it's like that's any criticisms I have don't really focus on that. So, yeah.
But I agree with you, Dave. I think it's an intentional. It seems like an intentional.
Yeah, like a hat tip.
Like a hat tip. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I had a little crown when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
That's dope. Were you Jughead?
Actually, I have that hat, right? I have the Jughead hat. I can't go get it because I'm tethered.
I think
but
that should probably be in like poor taste to like wear crowns like this and pretend that you're royalty in the 24th century. But,
no, we used to imagine like princes and princesses.
Yeah,
like,
I guess
it was like a thing.
Well, are you saying that all fairy tales need to only have blue collar workers and we can't still pin a little bit of romanticism on the royalty?
The monarchs need to be like the villains of all of the fairy tales. But yeah, I guess Picard's mom in her psychosis or whatever is going on, like sometimes she would put on like a red wig because she has like dark hair when they showed her in the flashbacks before. But yeah, I thought it was like kind of weird, like Picard's dialogue, like there was a queen who had fiery red hair and she was female.
I like that actually because there are
a kind of weird way to put it.
I like to
like
consider myself
dream
a male
dialogue
queen.
should be weird. Like I know he's a terrible asshole and a very bad person, but Joss Whedon wrote better dream sequences than anyone else who's ever worked in film or television that I'm aware of, because he would always have like the really surreal dialogue that was kind of like laced with meaning, but not in like an annoying way. I don't know. It was like really clever, but
he also kind of like poked fun a little bit at the genre while he was doing it. Buffy had a particular way of being able to kind of blend humor and seriousness. But yeah, I didn't quite know what to make of the dream stuff early on in this. I think I was like, I'm not sure I'm gonna like this.
Yeah, it was a weird experience for me because I had kind of had a hard time piecing it together until I watched the episode a second time. Like the red sun at the very beginning, it's like you're right. It's like that's probably representing something else. But yeah, that was like the thing he was doodling in his little notepad or his little art book or whatever that he drops on the stairs. That's how Maurice finds him in the tunnels.
Broadly speaking, it's probably I'm only now thinking about this. It is probably it's essentially a hint, a premonition, or what's the word I'm looking for? That's his father, which we don't find out for some time into the episode, because like in all mythology and symbol, mythic symbolism, the sun is often representing father figures and gods, kings of the gods, but also specifically fathers often.
But I guess we get to see the child imagination vision of the story, but basically the other thing that like Picard had like all these, I guess, nightmares that haunted him into his 90s was this idea of like him and his mom being in their solarium, I think is what you call that room. I called it a greenhouse before. I thought maybe it was like for plants, but they're in the room with all of the windows that they're painting, and then they're chased by monsters. They're chased underground, and Picard is stuck. His foot gets stuck, and then something grabs his mom and drags her away. Something monstrous, and then when Laris does the little mental connection thing with her Romulan technology, and I guess Gary Seven's people's technology or whoever's technology, but her alien technology allows her to go inside, and she kind of sees more to the story. We find out that these images that are haunting him of like these monsters and stuff, that the actual monsters are his mom's mental health, and that what actually happened was that his foot was stuck and his mom was delirious and was running off, and then the dad came and rescued him and then had to restrain the mom, and that was traumatic to to little kid Picard, and that he's the therapist that he's been talking to, the Starfleet therapist all along, was actually a representation of his dad.
Mm-hmm. We don't yet know a few things, like a number of things, but one of them is like the precise nature of her mental illness, or
No.
Yeah, the description we get from Maurice after Picard starts to get more stable, and after Dr. Teresa used the neural stabilizer device that she's never seen before, but after she waved it over his head or whatever, but I guess that kind of helped fix him. But yeah, then he gives a description of her condition. What does he say? Cycles of terrible darkness and irrational exhilaration.
that sounds like like
Maybe
bipolar or borderline personality disorder, or maybe a more extreme version of that, some kind of psychosis that like schizophrenia. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking more schizophrenia than anything, because I'm an idiot with all this stuff. I don't know much about mental health. But
and we should probably all clarify that I think none of us are, unless Sohail, maybe you have more knowledge than I know about. But like I'm speaking from a very just complete neophyte place.
But I think when you're like seeing stuff that's not there and like you feel like in danger by it, I think that's common with schizophrenia. So that's what I was kind of thinking. What I am really curious to know more about, though, are the specifics, because I think it's unusual for Star Trek, even in Kirk's time in the 23rd century. I think it's unusual that mental health wouldn't be more treatable than this. And it almost kind of seems like, is the dad just like so like old school and traditional that he's just like locking her up like out of shame? Because that seems unacceptable.
Picard, isn't part of his the difficulty with this that, I mean, we know it also seems to have traumatized him in such a way that like it kept him from having long-term relationships. Does he also mention, like, does he have guilt over this? Like, does he feel he played some role?
That's we're wondering. I mean, he has a key, I guess, or something like that, and
yeah, there's going to be more to the story.
Sure.
Yeah.
Kids often can feel guilt over like divorcing parents or any sort of traumatic thing their parents go through, feeling that it's on them.
That's very common.
But I wonder, like, did he actually do something? Like, was she hiding out and he said he pointed, some security officers to her, or was there something very specific like that?
Well, I think his guilt is that like he wished he was able to like free his mom or like let her out of the room or what. We don't know what he's going to do with that key, but that's when not Laris, Tallinn, but I think she's going to become Laris somehow. But when she says, like, I liked her commentary on his trauma, on observing like his childhood trauma, and she says, "Oh, you do so much with this pain, you save worlds with it."
I think that's the clue that is Laris.
Because
why would she know that? Like that.
Yeah, why would she know like his future?
Yeah.
I think maybe like Tallinn will travel into the future, get cryogenically frozen or something, and then like she becomes like a watcher for Jean-Luc Picard instead of Rene Picard or something like that. I don't know.
I am confused by her stuff, and I actually, to be honest, like her revelation about being a Romulan was something I didn't quite like process. I didn't quite understand what the deal was with that.
I was sure she was a Romulan.
Yeah, we had figured that out
and all that stuff. And then even in this episode when she puts there's a chance that it was just Romulan tech, but I mean she puts the little piece on it and it has a Romulan shape. Yeah. So then she finally reveals it, but I had a feeling she was Romulan. So
was she just let's call it the Gary 7 agency. She works for the Gary 7 agency. She happened to be a Romulan. She could have taken any form when she met Picard. Did she choose Laris purposefully she actually has a connection?
They explain that in here.
Okay, so what is it?
They said that they normally use people that are like the same species as the planet they're working on, but sometimes they'll send people to a similar planet. So yeah, normally they would send like a human to Earth, but sometimes they might send something that's close to a human, like a Romulan, and just
humanoid,
disguise you. Yeah,
and
just
then
like
she does look like that. That's how she looks. This is her actual look.
Yeah,
and so it's either like a complete wild coincidence that she looks like the person Picard had a quasi-romantic connection with, and at the very least friendship with for years, or there is some meaningful connection that I cannot parse.
That's
Back
what
to the
Picard's
Future
theory.
influence.
Yeah, Picard is like, oh, you must be her ancestor, but I think that there's going to be more to it
Yeah.
than that.
You know, you just said Back to the Future. That actually kind of made me think maybe one of I almost needed that immediacy that Back to the Future uses to get to jolt things when like Marty's hand starts to disappear. Like, you know, that's because that's a little good ways into the movie, and they're like, oh man, if you screw this up, you're gonna start, and we're already seeing the effects start to happen. I think I needed some little jolt like that this episode to make me think, oh man, they need to get Picard rolling. We got to get this thing moving.
Our friend Brian, who is typically with us on the live show, but he's saying in the live audience, so all of Picard's female close friends turn out to be people that he first met in the Earth's past. First Guinan and El-Aurian. Yeah, he keeps meeting these women out of order. He met Guinan in the 1800s. He met Laris in the 21st century. But yeah, we'll see if we turn out to be right about that. But I think that this is going to be Laris, and that. Otherwise, I don't really know why we're wasting time with all this stuff between the two of them. If this is just like an ancestor that looks like her, but if it's actually someone who is Laris or was Laris or becomes Laris, and then they build up to a relationship between the two of them, then that kind of makes sense and adds some value to all this screen time we're spending with the two of them here.
I feel like they're going to have some pretty cool explanation for me to think that was a good idea.
Well, I think an easy one would just be Picard goes back to the future at the end of the season, and then when he gets there, Laris is like, "Oh yeah, that was me. That's how I met you." And then like I was.
But like, didn't he just randomly save she and her husband during the evacuation of like Romulus?
Unless the Gary 7 agency.
Did she specifically make sure she was in the right place at the evacuation,
so that she could be like a watcher for Jean-Luc Picard? Maybe like that's what the Gary 7 agency is like using her for in the 25th century.
There's a part of me that like also doesn't like the Gary 7 agency creeping around watching people like the CIA either, and so like the notion that he's got like somebody who's been assigned to him who's basically was just like, I don't know, there as a spy essentially, even if it was to help him, not loving it, but again, well, I gotta see how that plays out.
I never in my mind imagine like the Gary 7 planet people. They're like these noble beings. I think that they might actually be up to a lot of shady stuff like that, probably.
Well, you don't think, but hubris. Like, I don't think that like it didn't particularly feel like Roddenberry intended that to be their vibe. I think he wanted them to be a cool like spy with a kind of a larger than life vibe to them, but that was broadly benevolent in the 60s original episode. I mean, they were trying to stop us from nuking ourselves. Pretty traditional kind of 60s altruistic goal for nice aliens.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Watchers are some kind of, Metron Q.
Yeah, but
blah,
all
blah,
these
blah,
godlike alien beings, they always think like that they know best. They're always
that's true.
They're always like kind of
They
jerks.
represent in Star Trek. They represent billionaires, and we need to defund them.
Defund Gary 7.
They're the oligarchs of the universe. They concentrate all the power into
defund Q and Trelane.
Exactly, depower them.
Yeah, and it might be happening. So.
I don't know if y'all have any other thoughts on the Picard subconscious stuff.
I just want to throw in that maybe I wonder if I like the idea that Laris is a watcher because they're not just like watching a person but the whole line. Like there's like something to do with the Picard line being special somehow.
No Jedi.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That's a really good point. But I wonder if it's actually, Laris had that look on her face at the end of the future scene before they traveled to the Stargazer, and so that's kind of like what's giving me that vibe, is that like she had this kind of like suspicious look on her face. So
yeah, that's a fair point. By the way, in the comments, Brian says he's amazed that the Watchers don't know about the Q. Is that the case? They didn't indicate any knowledge of him.
Yeah, he had to explain Q to her in the 2 episodes ago, I believe.
Her employers might know. She said that there's higher beings. Yeah, higher beings who know more. I only know a little part of the plan.
They probably compartmentalize a lot of that information.
Yeah,
Oh man, I just saw Andrew Hayes's comment. There was no watcher present for Picard's brother and nephew.
Nope.
Oh, no.
Yeah, them Picards, I guess, didn't have any value. We just bumped up in a house fire.
Cold.
Maybe the watcher said it. Who knows? They got to make sure things line up right so that Laris can bang Picard in a 400 years.
So that he'll want to like have kids, so that he'll.
Yeah, we must have his progeny must continue.
Yeah.
It's the dude from Star Trek Prodigy. He's manipulating these
the
events.
diviner.
Yeah, he's like the Bene Gesserit trying to ensure a bloodline that they can work with. No, God, please no.
I think that diviner is all behind everything. It's gonna be everything.
About the dream scenes, just on a purely technical level, I want to say like they did have a cool like eerie vibe to them. I know they wanted to spin it kind of suspense and horror-y. It looked like Gothic movies or neo-Gothic movies, the little brief glimpses of like distorted faces and creatures and stuff were pretty cool. I was not super engaged with it because I was kind of, I guess my head was like, yeah, go ahead and get to the points, get to the reveals. So unfortunately I feel the craftsmanship was a little bit wasted on me.
Well, I like the chateau being like this place with like a lot of history and a lot of mysteries and stuff. So I like that they're able to continue to show it to be like this old important place that is like connected to Picard's lineage and his personal history. And so that imagery was really cool. And then also the ready room or whatever he says I was in my ready room. I think that's the Stargazer ready room that we just haven't seen yet. We'll probably see it in like season 3. But that was cool. The show that spent so much time being set on Earth, we haven't had like any space shots or anything the last few episodes until like this episode. So you almost kind of forget you're watching Star Trek until you see this. It's like, oh, a dude in a Starfleet uniform, and it was a sharp looking uniform. It looked kind of like uniform. It was like a hybrid of like both Deep Space Nine style uniform, right? You have like the black with like the color on top, but it's kind of like the black with the gray on top. It's kind of like both of those kind of combined, because it was gray, but it didn't have like the texture of like the First Contact black and gray uniform.
I was like, looking good, Bashir.
And that also helped him look more like Bashir, because it's similar to the uniforms that
I think that's part of what threw me. Yeah.
But I liked that conversation between the two of them when Maurice, or the dreamed up version of Maurice, says to Jean-Luc, "You lived longer than me, but I got to keep my hair."
Which Q depicted him as not having hair in that one scene.
Well, if you go back and watch Tapestry, because I was thinking, like, wasn't he kind of bald? And that guy, he's like very bald, but he still has a lot more hair than Patrick Stewart has. Because Patrick Stewart's totally, he's got like some eyebrows and that's it. Like he's got nothing else on his head.
Gene Roddenberry said people wouldn't care in the 23rd century.
Yeah, but Maurice Picard is clearly
Maurice is old school. Maurice is old school.
He's like a representation of.
And so is Robert. That's where Robert learned that from. But I did think I did imagine like, oh, Robert is older than Jean-Luc, so he would probably have like a better understanding of the stuff when it happens, and that's why Robert would be like a little closer to their dad. And it was even like when I'm watching, like this husband and father, when he's trying to like restrain his wife who's freaking out, and the little kid is like freaking out next to him. I was like, this guy needs some help. Like, where is it'd be nice if he had like his teenage son there to like help him with all this stuff.
Having Robert in this maybe would have made me feel a different way about it, but I feel like they were kind of setting up that, including, just Picard's general, like even from TNG, the one brief time we see Maurice, like, and then also the way Robert kind of treats Jean-Luc with the bullying and stuff like that. I wouldn't say that I wasn't expecting Maurice to be abusive physically, but I was expecting him to be abusive mentally. Like I was expecting him to be meaner than this guy is, based on what I've seen in TNG. Yeah. So I feel like they were.
But I like that it's a misunderstanding, that like Jean-Luc kind of like misunderstood his dad, and that's why they have this schism instead of his dad just being an asshole. I don't know. Yeah, this is more interesting to me.
It is interesting, but it seems like Jean-Luc, at least until he was a teenager, had to deal with Maurice, and so maybe he gets worse later on. But it just seems like it's skirting over this part of him.
Yeah, it seems like I could see Maurice, because like it seems like he failed to deal with his wife's issues well. Like he probably made some. Sounds like he made some mistakes, but even if he was a well-intentioned at times, and like that can break a family. That could break a person. Like mental illness. Especially if they don't understand it. If he was so old school that he declined to have treatment or didn't, sort of give her the agency to do it.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case. I'm going to be disappointed in that.
I mean, here he implies that she didn't want help, but like to me, it seems like Maurice, at least my understanding of Maurice would have been like, no, we don't do it that way, like that kind of thing.
Then if that's the case, I don't blame Jean-Luc for hating his dad.
Yeah,
because that's a pretty shitty way to live life in the 21st century. That's like pretty unforgivable for the refined 24th.
Exactly.
Tonally, the reveal of this episode, unless they want to subvert their own subversion, because at first we're like, oh, it's the dad is abusive or whatever, and then it's like, oh, he was actually, it was actually the mom who was at least the source of this anguish. I don't think, and the father was at least trying to do his best, maybe within limitations. I don't know if they reveal that he straight up like forbade, her from getting treatment or something like that. I think that would really completely ruin everything. So I don't think they'll do that unless they want to throw him under the bus, and it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's where I just felt a lot of anger from Jean-Luc, and I can't believe that he wouldn't have more sympathy for his dad unless his dad.
But I would like it to be like misplaced anger. Like I don't know.
Anger in that TNG episode or anger in this episode?
In the TNG and here, he's like, you monster. Like when he first
because he did.
it,
didn't he only now come to terms because Laris was poking and prodding and he was talking to his father's imaginary self? Did he only just now learn that his father was trying to protect him?
Yeah, I think that might be the case.
So in TNG, he was still operating under.
Yeah,
he was operating under the
Picard was wrong. If Jean-Luc was wrong about his dad all his life, and then now in like his 90s, he's starting to like come to terms with like, oh, I misjudged my dad.
I guess then I want more dimension. Like I would love to see like teenage Jean-Luc like dealing with his dad as well. Like just focusing on this one time period doesn't give me enough information about like their relationship and the misunderstanding, I guess. But I will just say that like I mean I'm holding my breath and waiting to see what happens, like because we don't have the whole story yet.
They've set up they're on a bit of a precipice, and if they kind of don't handle it somewhat smartly or interestingly, then it could kind of go awry.
It could, it's true.
But I'm pretty sure they've thought it through pretty carefully. Hopefully,
I think so. I mean, there's a lot. I think there's like a love for the series from the producers of the show that like I do think there's a lot of care and stuff like that. I will just say that like maybe one thing we can look at as like a cue as to like Maurice and his relationship with Yvette is how Robert was with his wife Marie. He was very hard on Renee, but not as hard as Maurice, I imagine. I imagine both sons are not as hard as Maurice was, But he was hard on Renee. He was very strict. But then with Marie, he was very tender. And so maybe there was something, But again, I would love to see Robert in this. I think it would have been a great opportunity to have Robert. And like, I think that would have added the dimension I would have liked.
I would have liked to have seen him because he has there's already a strong emotional connection or rough connection with Picard. But I see why they didn't, because they wanted the essentially a triangle of characters to care about and not a rectangle, I guess. It's one more kind of complication. Father, I see you. I think you pulled up Geek Filter's question, and I do have. It's an interesting question. How does Picard learn that his father, essentially has this is more innocent than he thought? He said Picard doesn't actually have his dad in his head. He's not Trill. Is this Q?
It is Q. Talon says Q is showing you this for a reason. There's like or Jean-Luc says that, I forget.
That's possible, but I think it could also just be, like memories that he hasn't like really processed.
He's recontextualizing them with maybe some prodding from Laris.
Yeah, that's a good way to frame it. Recontextualizing.
That's how I interpreted it, at least. Like maybe his the memories were there, but they had only ever been analyzed through kind of a child's eyes and a teenager's eyes, and had never kind of had this. He was kind of recontextualizing.
I mean, I've recontextualized stuff about my just within my 30s. I've had enough time to like think about some of the things like my parents were like when I was a little kid, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes like a lot more sense.
See, that's
now.
the thing, though. I feel like I thought my dad was really horrible and strict when I was a kid, but when I became a teenager, I started getting him, and I'm just surprised. I guess Jean-Luc just shut him off.
It took him a lot longer.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe,
they had a
maybe
very
you'll figure out
specific
even
trauma.
more about your dad. So Hal, when you're like in your 90s, maybe you'll understand even more.
I mean, I love my dad, so like, yeah, I'm at peace with my pops, but yeah, like, you know, he turned out to be no Maurice Picard, thank goodness, you know.
But and
at
like
least not
Aaron,
the way
like Aaron also pointed out in the live audience that Maurice forced his kids to dress up like
that was awesome.
19th
Newsies. So.
19th
By the way,
century
Aaron,
Newsies.
I'm wearing the 10 forward stuff. It came. Thank you.
Well, let's talk about Picard after he wakes up and he talks to Tallinn about like, oh, okay, there's what is it that his mom told him? No one knows you better than your enemy. I need to talk to Q. I need to find out what is exactly Q's motivation in all of this. What does he want from me?
That's a slightly weird thing to say to a kid. I mean, I get that she may have been a little unbalanced, but like I don't know that that's like if you're like that's something like Napoleon would say, right?
I mean, she also said, "Grab what you love. I can't breathe here. Let's go." Like, that's weird things to say to a kid too.
Yeah. Since he is supposed to be kind of taking it as like her wisdom, though, that's a little weird because like, well, you may be taking the wisdom of a person who was really, as he put it, struggling. So I don't know if that's if that was a diamond in the rough. I think
there's kind of a truth to that, right? Like, yeah, like your enemy would know you pretty well, or they would at least they've given you some thought.
It's weird for me to think of people, unless you're like into like, you know, like you're a warrior or you're into politics, as having enemies. But I guess people do, you know, even if it's just like internet arguments and stuff like that. Like I guess you do. Yeah. You array yourself against.
You don't have any enemies, Dave. You're a very sweet person. You don't have any enemies. I know for a fact that there's people that like they like stay awake late at night, like fathery. I hate that son of a bitch. Yeah.
Really?
Like,
wow. Dang.
I occasionally get into dust-ups in the comment section of my like local news Facebook page. Well, maybe that's as close as I get.
Maybe she should have told him to study your enemy's art, like Grand Admiral Thrawn. But I just want to say one last thing, Fathery, about that scene when she's painting on the what did you say? Call it Solarium wall. Why is she painting Batman? She's
I thought it was Black Panther. I thought that was T'Challa.
It was T'Challa. Okay. I thought it was Batman, but it could have been T'Challa. Yeah,
I actually did think that I kind of like the overall look of that sort of stained glassy to sort of dark fairy tale thing. I thought the set designers did cool stuff there.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, Dave, you mentioned that you really liked the El-Aurian lore that we get, and I did think it was kind of weird. Like, all El-Aurians care about like food and drink, and that brings us close together. Like, I mean, it kind of sounds like they're all bartenders, but it's that old. It's kind of that old trope that Brian has talked about. You see a lot in science fiction where whenever you introduce...
All the aliens are the same?
Well, not that. Not that they're like monocultural, but whenever like you introduce a character of like a new species, like that first one you meet, they normally have to be kind of like a representative of those people. Like Spock being like a good example. I know Spock's kind of an atypical Vulcan, but in those first 3 years of the original series, when we're getting to know the Vulcans, Spock is a representation of them. You know, he's trying to devote his life to the Vulcan ways. He's trying to be a being of pure logic. You know, Worf represents a lot of the Klingon values. Even though like he is sometimes more of a pure noble Klingon than like your standard Klingon, he's almost like the super Klingon. So it's kind of like, so I guess Guinan's is kind of like she just represents a lot of the El-Aurian.
Is Soren the only other main one we know?
And then there was the dude in Deep Space Nine.
Who is Prince Humperdinck, by the way, from The Princess Bride.
I love that actor.
Yeah, he's great.
Does he seem like a food and drink kind of guy? Because Soren didn't particularly.
Yeah, I mean, like he was trying to open up a rival casino to Quarks, and I guess they also had like food and drink available there.
Okay,
so.
All right. But like, you know, one thing is like the El-Aurians, other than being the race of listeners, haven't had too much definition. Even sort of the way, say, Betazoids have. We're always hearing little bits and pieces about Betazoids. And I don't know that I love everything that they revealed in there. I'm not sure if having a Q summoning drink that didn't quite make sense to me. But
well, I was just gonna say I would have loved to have had a segment where it's I Dream of Jeannie with Guinan as Major Nelson and Q as Genie. That would have been.
It does kind of seem like the genie in the bottle thing, but I like that. I actually like that. I like.
I thought it was weird enough it was interesting, but yeah, the food and drink thing, that will now forever partially, that's going to define future El-Aurians. That's going to be a lot of them in RPG role-playing games and in Star Trek Online and stuff. That's probably going to get factored in.
Yeah, for sure.
But and I think that's kind of neat. It's a neat, simple thing to hang your hat on. It does You're right. Brian is correct. It does deeply tie them into Guinan as their representative. But I also think it's a cool thing, though. I like it.
What I like the most about the El-Aurians of them being like a race of listeners is that they're receptive. They're sensitive. They like pick up on people's vibes. They pick up on if the timeline's been messed with.
Yeah.
So they kind of have like the sensory perception. Like when she does like the scary claws in this episode, when she thinks that they've summoned Q, but instead it's a FBI agent who comes down the stairs. But like she's doing it in a way like not like she's ready to like pounce and attack, but to me it felt like she's doing it as like she's trying to get like a reading. Like they're like her fingertips are like her like antennae scanning.
Yeah, I like the idea that subtle movements of what she was doing were like she's like poking at the fabric of reality or something
maybe,
like that.
But I took it as more of like an internal thing where like you're listening, where like you're fine tuned, like give your ear to the ground, and you're like you're getting a reading on the cosmos. And since they've always been described as a race of listeners, to me like that feels like a more natural and for me a more interesting idea.
You think she was listening to the background noise of the cosmos to see if it was blowing in a cue?
And she was like picking up like FM radio waves and all kinds of stuff.
I like that interpretation. I imagine that will actually get pinned down somewhere or another. By the way, that actor who you've pulled up on the screen who's about to show up, I know well from the TV series The Shield. He was one of the main guys. He was Dutch. He also shows up on Sons of Anarchy, which had a lot of the same producers and some of the same actors crossover.
Yeah, the actor who plays the FBI agent, Jay Carnes, has caused a lot of conversation online because he played a time cop in Star Trek Voyager in the episode Relativity. He's on like this time fleet ship in the 29th century.
I did not know this.
Yeah, so a lot of people are convinced that he's reprising that character. I am very confident he is not Duquesne from Relativity. I think that is
a weird casting choice in a time travel story. You
want me to explain why? You want me to explain why they cast him?
No, I just want to cast aspersions on it.
Well,
yeah, no, hit me. It does seem like, without having seen the episode, that feels like a good guess to me. But what you got?
Well, first of all, like they told us like months ago when he first showed up in a trailer, they were like, he's not Duquesne, he's a different character. I know, like
they did say that?
Yeah, and people lie, like producers and writers lie all the time.
Right.
We were also told once upon a time Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't going to be Khan. However, like I'm not sure why you would play this up as a surprise like this and like lie to your audience. And also, this guy is friends with Terry Matalas. He was in the TV show 12 Monkeys, so it really looks to me like Terry Matalas just like wanted to work with this guy, and so they cast him as this character, and it's unrelated to Duquesne. But if people think that it's Duquesne, I want to hear, which side of the conversation do you agree with? Do you think it's Duquesne or do you think it's not? You should say now if you have strong feelings about it, and then we'll be able to check the tape and prove if you were right or wrong later. But I'm going on record now. It ain't Duquesne.
Father presented a theory last night on our space that I agree with. I think it's that. Do you remember what you said, Father?
What did I say?
You said that this is the little boy grown up that the
Vulcan I got that from Aaron. Yeah.
Oh, Aaron said that. That's cool.
I think Aaron in our audience right now.
There you go.
He's saying if he is not Duquesne, then he is the kid who got the Vulcan mind meld. It always looked very 50s. So my guess is that the kid, and he basically became Fox Mulder. And yes, that is talking about in one of the trailers for the season a long time ago. They showed like a quick shot of like some kid in the forest and maybe like some Vulcan putting his hand on his head or something.
Yeah, which we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah,
crazy.
so if this guy is just like an actual FBI agent, he does seem to be a guy like investigating like weird paranormal type stuff. You know, he's like, oh look, this guy like beamed down from outer space. So yeah, he has a very like Fox Muldery type of FBI agent. If you're familiar with the X-Files, you know what we're talking about. But yeah, he ends up arresting Picard and Guinan, and so we get like the same ending as we got with episode 3, where it's like Rios being hauled off in handcuffs, but he left his comm badge so that Seven and Raffi can find him. It's like here, like Picard gets hauled off in handcuffs, but he leaves his comm badge behind, so Raffi and Seven can find him.
It's been a rough day for Picard. He just got hit by a car.
You know, like this whole season's only taken place in like a couple of days. You know,
Yeah, I know.
They got back in time on April 12th, and then I think at this point it's either because they had like at least one night where they went to the gala, but I think it's actually been 2 nights. So I think it's April 15th now. I think it's now like the day of the time change, which is funny. The day that we're doing this live and recording, it's actually April 15th. So I hope everyone's filed your taxes in the United States. Today's the deadline.
Actually, it's the 18th. It's Monday.
Oh, they extended
okay.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, good for them.
I was just trying to think. Picard did get hit by a car. The doctor lady said that she had to put her hands in his chest or something like that.
Yeah.
Can I presume that his like robot body, artificial body, whatever he has, kind of might have patched up a little faster than your average?
Yeah.
That's
90 whatever.
Not according to what they've said on screen. Is that his body's indistinguishable from a human body?
That's what I was thinking.
It'll still get sick. It'll still die.
So he kind of got better for the same reason that people in movies get punched, the shit beaten out of them, and then they shake it off and dust themselves off and move on because that's a plot point.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, man, ain't nobody that old walking away from a car crash like 10 hours later.
Well, I guess he's had like 24th century vitamins all his life, so maybe
that's true. We know he's probably in a very fit.
They might have
91-year-old.
They might have a better healing factor.
He's 91, right? Or am I just saying 91 because that's how old William?
I think
Shatner
Sir Patrick
is.
Stewart is 91 or 90.
No, Patrick Stewart's not that old, but
he's
Jean-Luc
not that old.
Picard.
He's 70 something. Yeah, Jean-Luc Picard is like.
I think he's like 93.
That's what I was thinking in my head.
I don't know.
He's older than Patrick Stewart.
He was born in 2405, right? Isn't that
okay?
it?
Then he's 96.
96. There you go.
Because this is 2401.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, very spry for a guy who's going to turn a century in 4 years.
Yeah. I looked it up. It's 96. Yep.
Oh, cool. Okay. I knew Picard's birthday. Wow. I never know stuff. But yeah, but Sir Patrick Stewart's like in his 70s.
He's in his 80s now. He's over 80.
Oh, he is? He turned 80, okay.
I wasn't loving the FBI thing because it just at this point it just feels like a bit of a complication, and I'm like mainly want to see Q and or his ancestor Renee. You know, like that feels like where the action is now. But there's probably things I don't know about these FBI guys that's going to become relevant. But yeah, like it didn't hit me as like, oh cool, or whoa, so dramatic. He's taken by the FBI. I was more like,
Yeah, that like I said at the top of the show, it's like, yeah, we have a lot of spinning plates already, and then I guess we're adding more with the whole FBI angle.
Yeah, like I'm not even convinced yet that Rene Picard is the goal to change. You know what I mean? Like I'm still wondering about Corey. Who we didn't even see her and Soong in this episode.
Yeah, this is still have all that stuff to deal with.
Yeah.
We still have like a lot of the Borg Queen stuff going on. Brian in the audience is saying, I think the FBI guy is going to take Picard to Q. Yeah, maybe they can streamline some of that stuff and have it tie in together.
Yeah.
Because we do need to get back to Q and figure out what exactly is, all of Q's mysteries. Why is he sick? Why is he dying or whatever? Why is he desperate?
One of the sort of risks of the serial format is that you kind of need multiple swerves to sometimes build to a big payoff. And yeah, I'm a little bit worried that they may swerve and Renee may not be the actual end goal. That may be kind of a MacGuffin essentially. But will it be satisfying? I don't know.
Well, Let's talk about Rios and Teresa and Ricardo, a little kid, and I guess Rios wanting to be a 21st century stepdad instead of getting back to his crew on the USS Stargazer, and he seems to have kind of forgotten about his starship and all of his duties, and he's got the googly eyes for Teresa.
I guess this also confirms that he doesn't see Jurati as like sort of a long-term prospect.
Yeah, they kind of touched on that last week when she kissed him and he was like not into it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She seems a little erratic, even under the best of circumstances, and when possessed by a Borg queen, maybe.
Well, yeah, and I think that
so.
was the Borg queen kissing him actually.
Right,
yeah,
right. But Jurati was still into it too, because then she was like kind of disappointed at his.
I mean, I'd still be
at his rejection. But the whole conversation about like his dad wasn't around, so he always looked up to father figures, and you had that captain on the, what was the ship he was on, the Ibn Majid,
yeah,
in season 1, and then he looked up to Admiral Picard as like a father figure, and now he wants to be like a father figure to little Ricardo, I guess. That's another thing, like if you're a dude who's ever tried to like date a woman who has a kid, that's like you kind of have to figure out, like a relationship with the kid at some point. Or I've been on like both sides of this now that I think of it. I've been like the little kid with a single mom and like who are like these weird guys trying to date my mom, and then I've been like the adult trying to like date a woman, and I'm like, why do you have like this weird kid with you? so I've seen it from like both points. Or I guess there's 3 points of view. I've seen it from 2 of the 3. But I thought that all felt like really like her like being kind of protective of Ricardo, and like like I don't know if I want you around my kid. You're kind of weird, and then him being like, okay, I'm gonna show you everything and show you the truth, and
you want
take you to La Serena.
I'll show you some weird.
And then Ricardo saying, I'm going to touch everything, which I don't think any kid would actually say that. I think they would do that. I don't know if they would like announce it.
That's one of those
like
lines that they do in Disney and Pixar movies that's meant to make the audience laugh at the precociousness, but annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
That's funny.
I see in the comments, by the way, this is jumping back slightly, that I think it was Aaron saying that, or somebody else brought up the notion that the FBI agent could be Gary 7.
That was Daniel, I think. Daniel C.
Yeah. Daniel mentioned it, and then Aaron was like, Gary 7 would be older. Although the exact nature of like, I don't know if like Gary 7 or agents for his organization might have something else that slows down their aging process, or who knows.
Or if they're time travelers, it's not really clear, right? Like
they didn't do any time traveling in the original series. They were all like actually in the 1960s.
But if they're gonna like, if that's gonna be some aspect of Laris / Tallinn, then then that may be that could be revealed about Gary 7.
I don't think it's necessary there. I think she could just like cryogenically freeze herself and wait for her new assignment with John Luke.
The Gary 7 thing is kind of making more sense to me because it would kind of bring full circle the nod to that era, but we'll see.
He could be the young FBI agent that interrogates Chekhov, and that's what triggered him to go on this like alien tech journey as well.
Do you have any other thoughts on Rios and Teresa?
I feel like
go ahead, Dave.
He's moving a little fast, but I'm neither here nor there. I think I was more into it a little bit earlier on. It seems one of those things that when I think about like sort of serious stuff in a time travel story, then romantic flings start to feel like I'm like, aren't y'all trying to save all of the future? I'm like, maybe pipe down with the hormones a little bit.
They always do it though. Like every Star Trek time travel, you either have Sarah Silverman or someone show up that you end up revealing your secrets to.
Am I correct in that in City on the Edge of Forever, Kirk and Spock knew they had weeks or even like a few months until the critical time point? So they were just biding their time, just kind of living normal lives. They knew that they just had to kind of wait some stuff out, right? And in that time, you could fall for somebody. If you're like, man, we got to be moving now. We got to go catch the Borg Queen. We got to do all this stuff. But like, I'm going to pause to like, try and woo someone, that's when it seems weird.
And
I'm
wondering if they're going to leave him in the 21st century.
Well, I'm starting to think that could be a possibility, but my favorite theory, which I don't like, I'm not happy about this, is that she's
then
like
why is it your favorite?
Because it's probably what's going to happen. Is that she's like an Edith Keeler type of character.
She's going to have to die?
She's going to have to die, yeah.
No,
they wouldn't orphan little Ricardo.
She has to be deported.
Dr. Teresa must die.
Terry Matalas would do. Well, that's actually, from what I understand, Terry Matalas was responsible for like starting off season 2, but then he kind of passed the controls over to Akiva Goldsman, and Akiva Goldsman is kind of driving the ship right now because Terry was developing season 3, and then season 3 is all going to be Terry's vision. And I kind of did, to be honest, prefer like the Matalas stuff at the beginning of season 2 more than the stuff we're getting now in the second half, which bodes well for season 3 when we're getting the full-on Terry Matalas show. But yeah, it does make me like a little uneasy about how they're going to conclude season 2.
I don't think that they could have her satisfactorily travel to the future with him when all is said and done, because she's got like work to be done here.
Well, she's got to take the kid too. She can't abandon him.
Well, I mean, yeah, like if he hypothetically could come too, but I think that they've made pretty clear she's doing important work in the present. I don't think they're going to want to undermine that. I could see him staying, but that's a little bit of a weird plot thing for him since he just regained his captaincy and there seemed to be momentum on that.
Right,
he seemed to be enjoying it.
You're kind of a shitty captain if you're just gonna like. The last time I saw my ship and my crew, they were all like getting blown up by the Borg. But you know what? I'm just gonna assume they'll figure it out, and I'm gonna stay here with this cute girl.
If through some timey-wimey stuff he could be assured that they weren't, that they were okay, he basically
then I'd be fine. I'd be fine with it.
Okay.
I mean, it's still kind of weird to just fuck up the timeline and stay back in time, but it's also weird if you're like, man, like the 21st century is really cool. I mean, yeah, it sucks. Sometimes you get detained by ice, but have you seen like an actual like real book of matches? That's really cool.
I just want to say that like it also doesn't make sense because if they correct the timeline or whatever, if they correct whatever Q did, Q like took them out of their fate, put them in an alternate timeline by changing something in the past, but he actually moved their consciousness over to this alternate timeline from the prime, let's call it, or whatever. But now, when they fix everything, shouldn't they just all pop back to the future? Like, do they have to travel back to the future? Wouldn't it just erase everything that was wrong? I don't know. A
lot of times that's how it happens. You fix stuff and then...
They could write it that way, and I think that would feel fine and natural. I mean, when Q is involved, you can throw the rules out the window.
So maybe there's another factor. Maybe Rios will have no choice. Maybe he tries to stay in the past, but actually, when everything gets fixed, he gets sucked back.
That would be the best way to do it. And I've thought of that before. Like, if they need someone to like make like the sacrifice play and like stay behind, then yeah, he can like volunteer to be the man to stay behind.
If they have a little bit of time in the present and, when they don't have to just be chasing Borg queens and stuff, I hope at the very least they get to, hook up.
Jill47, our live audience, is saying, why did they spend so much money on the Stargazer sets? Perhaps Picard or Riker will captain the Stargazer in Season 3. And Jill, I'm very confident that Season 3 is going to be Picard and his TNG friends on the Stargazer. That will be the ship of Season 3. Whereas Season 2 takes place in the 21st century, Season 3 will take place on the Stargazer.
That lends credence for sure to Rios staying in the present.
Yeah, they don't need him.
They don't need him.
Yeah, I think Picard's also, like, I could take over my old ship.
Also, technically, like, that could be any modern ship. Like, they could redress it, and it could become, another ship. But I agree. I like the idea that the Stargazer, although, I'm being maybe precious here, but I want the Enterprise E to show up, or the new Enterprise. I don't know. Like, I want to see Enterprise.
They're not going to make it an Enterprise show because they're not going to do 2 Star Trek shows of adventures on an Enterprise and the Strange New World is going to premiere in 3 weeks.
Fathery.
That's not a shit. That's the right call. You should not have multiple Enterprise shows at the same time. That is the correct thing to do. But it is
weird to like get Picard and the gang back together not on the Enterprise.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of realistic. Like why would things tumble out that way?
maybe it'll
but
show
they
up.
usually
Maybe they'll have like the Enterprise E show up for like one special moment.
that I can see happening. Like, maybe one of them is I don't know if like any of those people ended up commanding the Enterprise, any of the former crew, or in an emergency take it over. But who knows?
Aaron is pointing out Terry did say that there would be a ton of Starfleet vessels in season 3. You know what I would love is if Picard is in command of an entire fleet, like that fleet we got at the beginning of season 2, and like the Stargazer is just his flagship, and he might have Riker on one of those ships, Jurati on another ship, Crusher on another ship, and they're all in command of their own ship, and he's like coordinating this entire fleet.
Crusher on Pasteur, yes.
Yeah, they might need a hospital ship. Who knows?
Yep.
It's weird to me though everybody becoming captains. Like they already kind of maybe stretch that a little bit. Like I'm just like I don't know that that's the destiny for everyone.
Well, some of those people have. I mean, we saw some of those people in alternate futures become captains. Yeah. Jurati got the Challenger on Voyager. Riker got the Enterprise and All Good Things. So
Worf is a governor of a Klingon colony.
Yeah, maybe. Well, hopefully
that makes more sense to me. Like that's a high position, but he's not just straight up a captain.
Yeah.
But maybe they'll actually like explain what's going on with Worf, unlike Star Trek Nemesis.
Father, can you throw up Aaron's comment, his last comment?
You get a ship. You get a ship.
Everybody gets a ship.
I can just see Oprah screaming like this, throwing out eagle mosses.
The last thing from this episode we have to talk about is Seven and Raffi. They didn't really do a ton, but they were investigating Jurati and trying to track her down. So I'm glad that they actually showed, someone was actually like, hey, we should really, worry about where our friend ran off to. And they find out she has, under the influence of the Borg Queen, they see her install some Borg code on the ship. So now their ship is kind of restricted from them. I'm not real clear on what the limitations are there, but
when that happened, when they were like, "Oh, there's Borg Queen tech infecting the ship," or like code Borg code or something in here, I think I would have like freaked the fuck out. I would have been like, "Wait, this ship that we're in right now, with all its life support systems and all that could do all these things, release toxic gases, who knows? Like the Borg Queen is controlling that." I think I'd freak the fuck out.
Well, I mean, 7 of 9 is Borg and has like used Borg technology on ships before. Like they put Borg tech in Voyager and the Delta Flyer and the Stargazer. So it's
the way they're reacting, it doesn't seem like they think it. Like it seems fairly clear they don't think that she's yet got the capabilities to infect people. She's probably working towards it. Yeah. So I guess you could extrapolate from that they don't expect that she also like runs the whole ship and can just make it take off with a thought. But maybe before this season is out, that might happen.
She has to go to bars and break glass. It's like a video game. You have like a little you have to break like a certain percentage of glass, and then you have like a progress bar. After you break like enough glass, then you turn into the Queen's final form.
Yeah, that's a very specific thing, but I kind of assumed that like Jurati was, on some level kind of resisting her impulses and was maybe wandering around a little bit aimless, maybe went into this bar pushed by the Borg Queen, and then the Borg Queen is losing control and she makes her go smash the thing and then release endorphins and takes over more. That was okay. I kind of like that reveal.
But I loved Raffi and 7 when they're just talking on La Serena about you think Rios and Jurati are getting back together, and then they're kind of talking about like their relationship, and Raffi saying she wants to be like old ladies sitting on a park bench with each other. It's like I really like their chemistry and I really like their relationship.
Hey, Father,
I find it interesting. Go ahead.
Aaron's asking, is that a regular Delta or is that the Confederation Delta, which is what Blue is saying on her mug? I can't tell. Anyway, sorry.
I don't see like that cross on it like that we see on the Confederation stuff.
I'll have to go back and watch and see it in motion, but
I continue to be fairly impressed that something I was maybe a little dubious on at the end of the last season.
The Confederation. Look, there you go.
Can you see the lack of
in the middle there?
There's
like one star and no other.
It's like only Earth's solar system matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That the 7 and Raffi thing in the last episode of season 1, I was like, oh, they're together. Oh, okay, yep, fine. That they sort of fast forwarded through it to sort of the rocky times, but like they really did a pretty good job of it. Like I sort of feel like they have a history that I didn't see, and I buy into it. I buy into the fact that they still care. It was an interesting place to fast forward to. I think
they're cute,
and
they've been doing a good job.
Like I think some people have gotten confused about their relationship and think like they broke up or something. And it's like, no, like they never broke up. It's just like there's a little bit of tension between them in that like Seven was content doing long distance and Raffi wanted them to fast forward and become more serious. But they've been in a mostly functional relationship this entire season.
Right. It seems like it just got kind of like, they maybe had different sort of notions about exactly how to maintain it.
Right.
And Seven was kind of caught between feelings of duty and being able to, have give herself a life.
I liked seeing Raffi kind of let her guard down and loosen up a little too. Like she was kind of having a moment of like fun when she was saying like Rios and Jurati, they're not the main, we're the main thing, like those guys are just the second, the side act.
Yeah, then their rapport when she's talking about like trying to trip teenagers on floaty things, like is like in her mind is like even like in the further future than their future, like teenagers just float through the park. But anyways, but Seven's response to it is like, and I'm better than you are when we're doing that. And I just, like that playful nature, which we never really get to see. Like Seven, she was always like serious on Voyager, and she was in a different way like serious on Picard. And so yeah, it's fun to see her, be playful with someone like that.
Yeah, I like that image of Raffi saying, "Well, I kind of see us growing old together," that kind of thing. It's very, the whole thing was very cute.
And this isn't relevant. This isn't relevant at all. But I just got to point it out because. Sohel and I actually got the chance to meet and talk to Michelle Hurd a couple of days ago, and she's
awesome.
Very nice and very friendly. And while we were chatting to her, I noticed that like in real life, she has like some of the most beautiful eyes.
Beautiful.
Like they're like a glowing gold color that like I've never seen on anyone else before. It's funny that like they don't look that impressive on TV as they do in real life, but
doesn't like capture it.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle Hurd also just like she kind of has this like she has that star presence. Like I was kind of like around her, I was feeling the little bit of like that, not a little, a lot of starstruck, and stuff like that.
That's cool.
We also met Evan Evagora that same moment, just like a few moments before, and that was cool.
That is why can't I say his name? Elnor?
Elnor, yes.
Yeah. That's cool. I think of all the various little sort of romantic linkages in season 2 of Picard. Definitely Seven and why can't I suddenly say her name?
Raffi
are where my head is most at. My heart is most at.
Yeah, they've had like some of the funnest sequences, like when they're like running from the cops and stuff, or shooting fascist, or whatever else they've been up to. They've been pretty entertaining throughout.
That's the time travel antics I'm here for.
Trying to talk security guards, sweet talk security guards, and to let them into restricted areas.
Trek Yards is in your audience. How's it going, Trek Yards?
Oh, cool.
And it's Samuel. Cool. Hey, Samuel.
Oh, Samuel's at the helm. Well, hello, Commander Calkins. Thank you.
I demand Stuart make you captain already. No, I'm just kidding. You can be commander if that's what you want.
Well, anything else on this episode before we go into the Gornegg section of the show?
I don't think so.
I appreciate the episode more because of this conversation. I have to admit, you guys helped me fill in some of my gaps. So yeah, I'm starting to think about it more. But I am still going to hold out a little bit of my feelings about the Picard dad-mom stuff until next week or until the show's over to kind of see where they take it.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they held out on like that last little bit when, Tallinn is like, there's more to this, what happens next. I really thought they were just going to dump that all here now because it seems like we have so much to cover in these remaining 3 episodes. But I guess we'll just have to, continue to wait and see on that. But let's talk about the Gorneggs. Those are the Easter eggs and jokes and continuity connections in this episode that I thought were worth mentioning. We're going to start by talking about all those weird voices that Tallinn hears when she enters Picard's mind. You get to hear, Picard screaming and yelling and all kinds of stuff. They were pulling material from Next Generation episodes, I guess pieces of trauma that are echoing throughout his memories. And there was some dialogue from Best of Both Worlds, The Hunted, Tapestry, and Chain of Command. in the ready room dream sequence, we see a few little Gorn eggs. There's like a seashell thing sitting on the table in there in the background. That was actually similar to a seashell we saw in the ready room in Star Trek First Contact. There's also a pad from the 2260s or 70s on Baltar's desk, and there's
Maurice.
Maurice. Well, he's kind of just a fictional therapist character, anyways. So
we'll call him.
And there's one of those Promelian battleships in a bottle in the background,
which we saw in person.
Yes, we saw this.
What are the Promelian battleships?
Remember that episode?
Picard had these when he was a boy. He made these.
Booby Trap. Is it called Booby Trap?
Yeah. And he had one in his in the chateau, and
apparently so did Chief O'Brien.
And Chief O'Brien made them as a kid too.
Yeah.
And then on the main desk in the ready room, there's actually a bunch of Eagle Moss models, like the real life miniature ships. It's kind of hard to tell when you zoom in, but I think I could definitely see K7, Regula 1, an Excelsior class ship, a Constitution class ship, and either a D7 or a Katinga. So those are you can buy those ship miniatures. And in the chateau, we see the Picard photo album that has the family crest on it. We first saw in Star Trek Generations.
Mm-hmm.
When Rios is bonding with Teresa and Ricardo, he says to Ricardo in the space helmet, "Hope you're up on your zero-gravity combat training." I think that is a reference to Star Trek First Contact, when Picard asked Worf, how well do you remember your zero-gravity combat training? We had to go on the outside of the Enterprise. He also tells her, "I'm from Chile, I just work in space." Very similar to when Admiral Kirk said in Star Trek 4, "No, I'm from Iowa, I only work in space." I like that they didn't make it verbatim. They changed it up enough that it's like, okay, that's I can forgive that little cutesy callback.
And I was totally expecting that line to come.
Because that is something you would say, right? They didn't make it like word for word the exact same thing. Yeah, because that would have been.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Dave doesn't like it because he hates anything.
Aaron is saying, I wonder if the broken
fun
model
and
is a dig at Eagle Moss. My NX's nacelle just fell off. So
I love those Constitution ones fall apart.
So I have to glue. Fortunately, I have some Gorilla Glue that might work and fix that. But maybe it is a dig at Eagle Moss.
Fathery, when Red Letter Media rips on Star Wars and they're doing their talking about how nostalgic all Star Wars movies are, and they're like, "Remember the Stormtroopers?" That's how I feel when they're like, "Remember I work in space." that's how I see it. But I have a caustic and cynical mind, so
we need a little bit of that in the panel.
Even though I don't have any enemies, though. What else we got, Fathery?
On the La Serena command console, computer screen, whatever, we see some Borg written language that was first established in the Next Generation and Best of Both Worlds Part 2, and then we see more of it throughout Next Generation and Star Trek Voyager. The woman singing in the dive bar that Jurati Queen, whatever hybrid, goes to visit, that's actually Patrick Stewart's wife, Sunny Ozell, singing one of her actual songs.
One of her actual songs.
Bravo, Picard. Bravo, Patrick Stewart.
He even said we rarely cross over, but we made an exception this time, and I'm glad they did because it's a cool little Easter egg.
Very lovely and talented spouse.
Yes.
Yeah, people put their spouses in Star Trek. That's a thing that goes all the way back to the very first episode of Star Trek, The Cage, starring. I guess they weren't married at the time, but his side chick at the time, Majel Barrett, was included in The Cage.
Became tawdry.
Was she the side chick at the time? I didn't realize
that was his girlfriend. That was not his wife.
Oh wow! Okay.
Mary Weissman's husband. I forget his name. I thought he had.
Noah Averbach Katz.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go. There's
Chief DeFalco in the motion picture.
That's rad.
Guinan does the claw thing from Q-Who. I pointed that out earlier, and then I also pointed out that the Duquesne actor Jay Carnes shows up in this episode as a character I'm saying is not Duquesne. So
I'm in agreement.
Okay, well, if you disagree, please let us know that you think it is Duquesne, and then we'll give you the credit next week.
Fathery, I want to redo our opening credits to Tex-Trek one day, and I want to do the Guinan, the El-Aurian claw hands.
Well, we're about to redo them. We're hopefully going to have the re-edited version out in 3 weeks in time for Strange New Worlds.
Duquesne was kind of a cutie back in the day. Look at that, or rather,
do you not think he aged very gracefully?
No, he's still he's like still a handsome man. But I'm just saying he was a cutie back in the day. Different.
He definitely does look different after the 24 years or however long it's been. But yeah, so that's all I got for Gorn eggs. But I think we do have some subspace transmissions.
Super light on the Gorn eggs. That's not bad. That's good.
Yeah, well, they were in a dreamscape, so
that's true.
Yeah, Father, are we ready to hit up some subspace transmissions here?
Yeah, we were asking people how they felt about last week's episode, and also asking about how they felt about some of the big things happening last week for First Contact Day.
Yeah, I think most of our responses are about First Contact Day, and which had that had like announcements about Picard season 3 and the new Star Trek motion picture and Mission Chicago and all that. So let's see what we got here. Okay, over on Twitter, GKL1961 says, we're in another golden era of Star Trek. I never thought it would happen in my lifetime. I am enjoying all the old and new iterations of the franchise, and I can't wait for more. And he concludes, IDIC, and also live long and prosper. So clearly enjoying the good times.
I like to say Latinum era of Star Trek, but
nice.
That one is kind of has a bad connotation to it. It's like such like a greedy Ferengi thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's
true.
true.
Say dilithium era.
Hey man, you're giving guilt by association to Latinum there. Latinum has a lot of other good uses. Come on.
Let's see. Eric Swinson says, last weekend reminded me of the glory days of the Trek cons I went to in New York City in the 80s and 90s. Marked improvement from the sparsely attended Chicago Con of just 5 years ago in a small hotel, even with A-list guests like Carl Urban. This was wonderful. So,
shout out to Eric, who we met at Star Trek.
Oh, right on.
Chicago. So cheers.
And Dan says, kind of a joke, but as long as they're bringing in the TNG cast and they're also saying this isn't TNG Season 8, why limit themselves to the TNG cast? Bring back DS9 and Voyager actors too. And he had like a little info or like a little graphic of the TNG cast that had little hand scrawled on it, Jeffrey Combs added in there.
I have a sense that we're gonna see some DS9 folks in season 3.
We're getting Worf. He's kind of a DS9 character.
But I have a sense.
If Colm Meaney shows up, that'd be pretty cool if they get Chief awesome. O'Brien involved.
Yeah,
and he's got some next generation in his blood.
Yeah, it's
I also have a sense that that's not all. I think we might see Major Kira, or I guess she would be Colonel.
She
Colonel
better
Kira
be
now.
General by this point.
Or General Kira. Yeah, it's true. Oh, I love that. I think that's cool.
Robbie, a.k.a. Earl Grey Trekkie, also said, I think at the very least it would be good to have an Ezri cameo, considering that Worf will be back.
Yeah, they could work her in there too. But I'm open to bringing in any of those people if there's room for them in the story. Why not use someone who's already established? If it makes sense, if it's going to fit in there organically, then sure, why not? If you need like a sleazy businessman, then why not use Quark? That's fine.
They're calling this a send-off to an era, and I kind of love that. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like,
I think it will be the big send-off to like the Berman era Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's going to be a nice thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot. And then, what's great is in a movie it could be overdone, but in a 10-episode series,
they have a lot of time to
like have things make sense. So it could work really well to include a lot of different characters.
And there's so many people they're bringing in like behind the scenes, like not just the Okudas and Drexler, but a lot of other people. Like,
oh, really?
Like what's his name? I just thought it was Dan Curry. Dan Curry's involved. Yeah. Like they kept that a secret. I just saw like an interview with him not that long ago. He was doing one of the virtual cons recently. He never even mentioned that. Yeah, he was like working on something big. But yeah, he was involved in Picard season 3. So a lot of those people.
The dude who does the plays that instrument, who's like the expert on that instrument from the Star Trek the motion picture. What's it called? The something beam. I can't remember right now.
The thing that makes the eerie sounds.
Yeah, dong.
Yeah.
That.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
The V'ger sound.
Yeah, the V'ger sound guy. Yeah, the V'ger sound's gonna be in. It's that instrument's coming back, and like they got the what's it called? Dang it, it's something beam. I can't remember right now, but Metalis tweeted it out. There's an article that it's coming back. So, yeah. So I don't know.
The one other comment I wanted to mention was just a quick one from Thomas Hill over on YouTube. I think this was in regard to your Father, the Mission Chicago video, one of the tour of the floor there. So maybe this was like a model. He said he liked the look of the redesigned Enterprise of Strange New Worlds over the J.J. Abrams, the Kelvin.
Yes.
Kelvin
Yeah.
one.
The John Eves redesign is far superior to the Ryan Church redesign. My opinion.
Was there a model or some imagery of it there?
Yeah.
I need to look at
that.
that.
If you want like a good resolution video, Dave, go watch the video me and Sohail put on the Tex-Trek Facebook page.
Okay.
Because you can see us, just walk all around the model of that ship.
That was
Right on.
fun. That was really fun doing that.
That might even be in 4K.
Ooh. It's called Blaster Beam. Thanks, Blue Strike.
The Blaster Beam. Thank you, Blue.
Thank you very much.
That was a crazy name.
I know.
Is that it, Dave? For
that is it.
subspace
Hailing
transmissions?
frequencies are closed.
Okay, well, people should, by all means, comment or email me or hit me up on Twitter or comment on the Tex-Trek Facebook page and tell us how you felt about this episode. And let us know, like, your crazy theories, like what's going on with Q, what's going on with Borg Queen Jurati, what's going on with Soong, what's going on with Picard's family, and do you think it's Duquesne? I think it ain't, but if you think it is, let me know.
Will Rios stay in the past? Will Jurati become the Borg Queen?
Gosh, there's so much. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a lot of
plates.
questions.
There's a lot of
here.
plates, as Father says.
And
There's
what will that key do?
There's a lot of saucer sections floating around in there.
Yeah, I didn't know whether to say there was a bunch of spinning plates or if they're juggling a bunch of balls, but I think they're doing both. They're like spinning plates and trying to keep them spinning, or also juggling balls and try to keep those balls up in the air. So it's is it all going to come tumbling down in the next 3 episodes, or will they somehow find the graceful way to pull it all off? We will.
I think
find
they'll
out.
stick the landing.
I've seen people juggle chainsaws before, so who knows?
Oh,
yeah. How many more metaphors can we mix together here?
And are they colorful?
Double dumbass on you, they are. But Starfleet Boy, tell the people that are live watching us right now what's going on later tonight.
Well, if you're hanging out, Fathery, then we're gonna probably do some more just talking about Mission Chicago. But I'm already caught up on Moon Knight. I'm about to be caught up on Halo, and of course we'll just talk about whatever else anyone who comes on.
Yeah. I am behind on Halo, Moon Knight, Superman and Lois, and what's the other show I watched?
Superman and Lois.
What's the other one?
That's it, right? Bridgerton? Do you watch Bridgerton?
I don't watch Bridgerton.
Father, whichever you pick to watch before, I'll watch and catch up on, so that we can at least talk about one of the shows. Superman and Lois? Yeah, you're way behind on
I'm
that.
way
You're
behind.
like
I haven't. Last time
yeah.
I saw Superman and Lois was like before I went on the cruise.
So Halo?
I'm still only like 2 episodes into Halo.
Oh, are you like only 1 episode behind on Moon Knight?
I've only seen 1 episode of Moon Knight.
Oh, then forget. You're not going to catch up on anything. We'll just talk about the con. It'll be here. Marcelo's dying to ask us questions, and he'll be on, so we can just answer his questions.
And
anyone else who wants anyone else who wants to ask questions about the con, we're your Father's your seasoned expert, and I'm your first timer. So yeah, I'll happy to answer some questions.
Cool. So check that out. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We will be back next week for the next live Tex-Trek show, Friday at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, as always, you can listen to that wherever you get your podcast. And until then, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.